shame and embarrassment are old beliefs. And I say that there are beliefs because they are things that we've been hanging on to. If we're holding shame or embarrassment about who we are, anything that we've done, anything that's happened to us, anything that exists about us physically, then we don't understand the importance of why we're on the earth, why we're in the world. There's no reason for us to ever have shame and embarrassment, but we can use them sometimes to hold ourselves back because we're not willing to become all that we could be. And all that we could be was given to us when we were born. We just figure that out as we move through our lives. But we also come into the world with old ideas that we inherited, that we brought in from our families. We would have to do this. Where else would we learn anything? We had to come in with something. We are all connected to something that came before. We didn't just show up brand new into the world. We learn. But as we move through our life, sometimes we can get a little off kilter, so to speak. We can lose our way. I did that quite a bit. And that's why I do the work that I do. That's why I was given the information to help others move through that path and to release their shame and embarrassment. I would do crazy things like intentionally release things or talk about things that I know would cause me to have embarrassment or shame. The only way that I could get over it was to be able to talk about it and to do it in a public way. We have social media, so it's a little bit easier. We can just put out things and say things and hide behind what we have written, and we can even attack others that way and feel powerful. Feels so it's just not authentic. But if you can actually own who you are, talk about it, and give it to someone else, not only do you release the shame and embarrassment that you've been holding on to because it doesn't mean anything, but you've also now given someone else permission to do the same thing. And that's what I'm always doing. When I talked about, which I didn't talk about for years, when I talked about my my left foot, where I lost part of my left foot, I went through a horrible thing, and it's just ugly, and I don't like looking at it. It's this deformed thing that I would never show to anyone because it's just really uncomfortable for them to look at it. However, what it did was it gave me a gift because I got to work through all of that. I got to move through my shame and embarrassment about that. It took a while, but it's doable. And then what happens is you start to find your freedom. And finding your freedom is about self-actualization, because then you understand that you are quite what you're supposed to be. All the work that I do is about reinterpreting how we have been used to thinking of ourselves. That's the only reason that we have shame and embarrassment. Because if we understood the value of whatever experience we might have had, whatever we've moved through, whatever failure we think occurred, when we find the value of that, we give it back to the world, and then the world evolves. That's why all the work that I do is about, I'm doing two things. I'm owning the things that I've been afraid of, that I've been really putting myself down for, or judging, or whatever it might be. I am talking about it. And once I talk about it and put it out there, it's some of it, most of it is now gone from my consciousness because I've been holding it. Then somebody else is going to hear that and going to say, oh, maybe I can do the same thing. And then we start seeing a world that looks very different. We start seeing a world where we're not taking people down, where we're not really fighting with one another, because we understand what we hold within us, and then that example goes on to others, and you can see how that would eventually lead to a very different world than the one in which we're experiencing currently. And that is the only work that I'm doing. But your shame and embarrassment is completely unwarranted, and all that needs to happen, which is not an easy task, I understand, however, it is doable, and it is about reframing your thinking, giving you an entirely new perception of yourself, and then using the available known science called neuroscience, which is how we do anything, how we learn, how we change, how we do anything, using that in an effective way. And that is what my program does, and that's what I offer to everyone. It's in my program, or if I work with you privately, it's the same thing. It's about moving through all these old ideas we've held about ourselves that have held us back and caused us not to live the lives that we could, and not to create the world that we all want to live in.